What we've done with the Design Your Own Dungeon is we've come up with ways for you to go out in the world, collect all the stuff that you need through regular gameplay. Then when you have all the pieces you need, you can come back and assemble them into a dungeon. You can test it really easily by running NPC groups of invaders through your dungeon, find out what works, what doesn't work, and then publish it. And when you publish it, you become available, your dungeon becomes available for other people to visit. Well, when they come in, they rate it, and then there's leaderboards and ways to keep your name up in lights. So the people that are making good content are going to become well known amongst the other players that are out there. We want these people to be superstars. If they're going to put this kind of effort into these things, we want them to be famous for it. So we're building it so that they can be. But even better is, as a builder or as a player, either one, as you go through these dungeons that people have built, you're going to be able to get rewards based on completion of those areas that you can then give your characters fat loot, which is what everybody wants. And we've set it up in a way which I firmly believe is non-exploitable. We'll find out at beta, but I'm pretty sure it's non-exploitable. It's a system by which we have well, the first objective, the simple game type when you're playing Design Your Own Dungeon, is basically get to the end of the dungeon. So we know that they have to go from the beginning to the end point, and we know that there's only certain possible paths to go. Well, we can calculate the challenge rating along those paths, and whichever one of them is the easiest, that's the challenge rating for the dungeon. So it's really hard to exploit, because you just fill everything's up, and if there's an easy path through it, that's kind of what everything's rated on. So when the players go all the way through and they finish that dungeon, they're going to get rewards based on the challenge rating of that dungeon. So it balances itself. So what we decided to do was make it so that you could build it all from within the game. So when you go out and collect, say, a dungeon layout, when you select that dungeon layout and you want to start laying it out, you're actually going to appear within the dungeon, and then you run around from that housing perspective, and you're basically laying down spawners and objects and everything like that. And there's some basic rules that you can do on those for behaviors, but basically you're putting them wherever you can see, and then you just go through and decorate your whole dungeon. And you can even put your housing stuff in there if you want to, because we want people to be able to go crazy with this stuff. So it's very simple. It's all within the game. It's very easy to understand and learn, but there's shades of interactivity which I don't think anybody's really pursuing right now. Like examples. Say if you had an orc spawner, and you thought, oh, it would be cool if the orcs had some kind of special ability. Or forget that. You just decided a campfire would be cool next to where the orcs are spawning. So you put a campfire down. Well, what you're going to find out is that the campfire object actually interacts with the orc spawner. And when the orcs spawn, now they have fire weapons. And so you can do things like have an alarm bell, and you put it down near a spawner. Now when those guys spawn and you attack them, they're going to ring the alarm bell, and all the other monsters in the area are going to come to it. So there's all these things that builders can experiment with, and as they put the objects in different places, they get different effects. And that kind of interactivity is fun for people that like to do that kind of thing. So as they get more of what they like, the players are getting more interesting interactions from the monsters, and it just builds on itself. Next expansion, Age of Discovery, has a Design Your Own Dungeon. It has the new Mercenaries feature, which is basically being able to recruit mercs and to aid you with your party, so that you can go out and with fewer players you can actually do bigger things, like go into a heroic dungeon with only a couple of players, but the rest of you are mercs, and so you can still win. But the mercs are really cool because they have racial characteristics. So wherever you recruit them from, they actually behave differently. You could get a healer from Kinos, and he'll be different than a healer from Freeport, because they're different races, they have different abilities, different AI elements, all that stuff. And then the Beast Lord, of course, is the 25th class for Everquest 2. And we didn't want to just add a 25th class. Granted, the players have been asking for Beast Lords for years because they loved it from EQ, and that's cool. But we didn't want to just throw in another class and have it not be that different. So we're actually fundamentally changing some of the gameplay with it. The warder interaction between the player and their pet, their warder, is very different than we have with other pet systems that we have in the game. The warder will have its own AA tree, its own hotbar of abilities. How you interact back and forth between the warder and the player changes the way those things go. It's a very active game style, and we hope that players will find it really fun. But even if not everybody finds it fun, some people will, and that's a good niche to hit.